Classic, hit it!
Hey, and welcome to Segalicious, the show with the stupid name where we explore Sega games both old and new. Okay, I think that's enough of that voice. Anyway, if you couldn't tell by now, this episode is about Crazy Taxi. First released for the arcades in 1999 before being ported to the Dreamcast in 2000, Crazy Taxi was developed by Sega's former internal studio AM3, and the game has gone down in history for being nothing but a good time. From being played by thrill lovers in the arcade over 20 years ago, to being played by vice president nominees in the 21st century, it's almost as if everybody alive has had a positive experience with this game, so I thought it'd be a perfect game to cover for the series. With the niceties out of the way, let's head on down and play some Crazy Taxi! Now's about the time that I'd give you a synopsis of the game's narrative, but as this game is about driving a taxi to and from certain destinations, well, there is no narrative. The whole point of the game is to pick one of 4 cab drivers before trying to drive as many customers to their desired location before time runs out. When the clock strikes 0, it's game over, and you get to see where you place on the leaderboards, encouraging players to keep playing over and over again to achieve new personal bests. I don't know about you guys, but when I was a kid, BD Joe was always my favorite character. He's super carefree and he just wants to give his customers a good time, just like the game itself. Seriously, Crazy Taxi has to be one of the most colourful, joyful, and just downright enjoyable games ever created, and it didn't need super high-tech graphics or gameplay mechanics to do so. Simplicity is the key to Crazy Taxi's gameplay formula, as just like most arcade games, it's instantly obvious what you need to do in this game, and the gameplay just feels natural. It's hard to put into just words, but the moment you start your run and take off, controlling the taxi instantly becomes second nature, and you quickly get into the groove of picking up and dropping off passengers. By following the on-screen information and parking in this green area, you drop them off before starting the process again. Doing this over and over and over may sound repetitive, but it never gets old due to the breakneck pace that the game runs at. The timer is constantly ticking, serving as a permanent reminder that the game will be over if you make a mistake or get lost. Despite the game's very happy demeanor, it can actually become quite stressful when you only have a few precious seconds remaining before you drop off your last passenger, and I had so many close calls in this game as a kid. While a lot of arcade games follow a formula of making the player progress through a series of levels before eventually ending after the final boss has been defeated, Crazy Taxi just keeps going until the timer hits 0, and this was a deliberate decision by the game designers. The game's producer, Kenji Kano, told IGN in a 2000 interview that Sega AM3 wanted to make an arcade game where the better you were, the longer you could play. This perfectly describes Crazy Taxi's timer system, as if you get really good at the game, you can play for ages. But that's easier said than done, because getting good at this game requires you to play it a lot. Just like any good arcade game, you need to play it over and over again in order to learn all the tricks and the secrets, and for Crazy Taxi, this applies to things like getting used to the taxi speed and handling, and getting used to the map layout. After all, your shift is about to end, and money doesn't grow on trees and you've got to pay rent, so get to it. Even though Crazy Taxi seems like a simple arcade game at first glance, there's actually a lot of depth and strategy, believe it or not. For starters, each character's cab has different stats, and I'd recommend Axel for new players as he's the all-rounder of the game. BD Joe's cab has the highest top speed, but it slows down on non-concrete surfaces. Gina's cab has the highest acceleration, but it will get thrown around a lot if you crash due to its small size and weight, and Gus's cab has high speed but the worst acceleration. Choosing who to play as can significantly impact your performance due to their differing stats, so it's very important to find the right character for you. If that wasn't enough, there are also plenty of advanced techniques you can use to play even faster, like the Crazy Dash and the Crazy Stop. These moves help you get more rides done in a short period of time, and as you're constantly racing against the timer, it's a good decision to try and learn them. Mastering these techniques separates new cab drivers from veterans, and you'll only be able to get the highest rank in the game if you learn these. Also, customers are more than static NPCs, as if you drive with style and perform some crazy techniques, you'll earn extra money and time, allowing you to play for longer. However, if you drive a bit too recklessly by flat out disregarding their safety even more than usual, they'll become angry and won't give you a time bonus, and can you blame them? Finding the balance between being crazy in a cool way and being crazy in a homicidal way is an essential part of the game, and if you want that sweet crazy class rank, you need to keep this in mind. Crazy Taxi has 8 ranks, and the goal is to do your best and see which one you get. You earn money from customers as you play, and the more money you make, the higher your rank will be at the end. Customers can spawn all over the place, and the strategy behind which ones you pick up will change from player to player. If you have a lot of time left, you can probably get away with doing some customers that are far away, but if time is running low, you're better off going for customers who have quick rides instead. Because of this, Crazy Taxi actually reminds me more of a fighting game rather than other driving or racing games. You can have a lot of fun by doing some basic combos and special moves here and there, but in order to get the most out of the game, you need to sit down and devote time and energy towards it, learning all the game's minutiae in order to truly grasp it. The more you know, the more you grow, and hey, Travis Bickle didn't become a really good taxi driver by driving like a regular person, did he? Another very important part of Crazy Taxi is its awesome soundtrack. The game features selected tracks from American punk bands Bad Religion and The Offspring, and this style of music fits the game perfectly. Punk rock songs are usually pretty short, they feature lyrics about being anti-establishment, and they're typically produced in a guerrilla DIY fashion. I swear, everybody who's played this game has felt the thrill of recklessly driving at top speed with All I Want by The Offspring blasting out of the arcade cabinet, and it never gets boring or predictable, even if you've played the game many times in the past. The only downside of the game exclusively having licensed music is that for the game's re-releases, the soundtrack had to be altered due to legal reasons. While the new songs aren't bad, they're simply nothing like the original, and it just isn't the same without Bad Religion and The Offspring. Crazy Taxi also only has 7 songs in the whole game, the longest of which being The Offspring's Change the World, clocking in at 6 minutes and 24 seconds in length. This is the only song in the game to be over 3 minutes long, although I doubt that some players will be able to even play for more than 3 minutes, especially if they're new and haven't figured out the game's mechanics yet. Sega's in-house composers were, and still are, very talented, and despite a large majority of their late 90s early 2000s arcade games featuring original music made specifically for the game, their decision to license the music for Crazy Taxi helped elevate the game into legend status. Before making this video, I asked some people if they had played the game before, and the first thing they all mentioned was the soundtrack. Even if you aren't into punk or rock music in general, you can't deny that the energy found within the genre perfectly fits the game, and I don't think Crazy Taxi would be as beloved if not for the excellent soundtrack. Much like a punk rock album, Crazy Taxi is over pretty quickly when compared to its contemporaries, but you'd be lying to yourself if you said this short period of time wasn't enjoyable. If you couldn't tell by now, I really like Crazy Taxi, and I urge you to give it a go if you haven't played it before. Unfortunately, the game is sadly being delisted on Steam soon, so try to pick it up if you can, and despite the original soundtrack not being in the PC port, you can mod it back in if you know how. Even though there hasn't been a proper home console Crazy Taxi since the third game on the original Xbox, the series is making its grand return as part of Sega's Power Surge, and it's awesome knowing that Crazy Taxi will be making a return on modern platforms and PC with shiny new graphics and audio. And that's all for today's video. If you enjoyed it, thank you very much for watching, and feel free to leave a suggestion in the comments for a game that you'd like to see covered. Man, if only real rideshare services were as crazy as this.